Hello and welcome to This is Ibrox live match reaction as Rangers finally managed to score a couple of goals as we beat Kilmarnock 2-0 at Ibrox. I'm Martin Douglas and joining me today is Willie Irwin. Willie, how are you?
I'm all good, mate. What about yourself?
Aye, mate, I'm really good after watching that. But obviously, the first place we need to start, of course, is Alfredo Morelos. And in the manager's kind of pre and post match comments, he kind of made it clear where his thoughts were without actually coming out and saying it. So, what do you think about Alfie? Is that his last game, or is it just a case of a week out the team to get his head together?
Yeah, look, it's obviously disappointing. It's for the player to all of a sudden just to completely drop out the squad would suggest there's obviously issues there. Whether the club are now in a position where they feel as though they're going to move forward with the next bid that comes in, or possibly there's been more contact from Lille or from another club that maybe there's been some talks behind the scenes and he just feels as though now he doesn't want to maybe pick up an injury, or he maybe just doesn't feel as though he's able to give 100%. But I think when you see something like Ryan Kent today putting in the performance he did with the transfer speculation that's around him, I don't think it looks great for Alfie when he does that. If it comes out further down the line that there was something else going on, then fair enough. But if it's purely just transfer speculation, I would like to think that most players can just put it out of their mind and be professional enough to do the job that they're paid to do. So yeah, it's disappointing, and given how well Cedric Kitterin
Kemar Roof or Roth?
I hope my screen went blank there for a second, sorry. Kemar Roof did really well. So it's going to be hard for Alfie to find himself back in the team, even if he does somehow come back for this. But it does kind of feel as though that was the end for something for Rangers with Alfredo, which is disappointing because he's done so much good for us. But if this is how it's going to end and the club are going to be compensated with 16, 18, 20 million pounds, then basically we can go and maybe add another one or two players to the squad that will just make us stronger again.
I think the most disappointing thing is the way the manager made it out was as if his head wasn't in the right place. And I think it's disappointing because Steven Gerrard over the last 2 seasons has backed him to the hilt. Yeah. He's come out and defended him when sometimes it was indefensible. He's done everything he can for Alfie. And if it's the fact that a transfer bid's come in and his head's gone, that must be pretty disappointing, not just for the fans, not just for us, but for the manager as well.
Yeah, like when the manager starts making comments, like it must be pretty bad, to be honest, because as you quite rightly pointed out there, he's pretty much backed Alfredo after red cards, after maybe 3-4 bad performances, when things haven't been going his way, when things are kind of cropped up and off the field matters. And so clearly this must be like the lowest point for the manager, the fact he's had to come out and say this. And that's why I said a couple of minutes ago, you do kind of feel as though maybe this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad way for Alfredo to finish. I'd have loved him to have it out, maybe scoring a winning goal or doing something, because he certainly, for me personally, I'll be thankful for what he's done for the club. He cost us like £1 million. If he does move on for a fairly hefty fee, the club's going to make a fairly healthy profit on him. It's allowed us to add potentially 2 new strikers and possibly 1 or 2 more in the coming weeks and months ahead. So, to that point of view, it's a good and a bad thing, isn't it? But we watch football for 30 plus years, players come and go. It's just the nature of the game, but it's just a sad way for it to finish, to be honest.
Aye, absolutely. But we'll discuss this more obviously in midweek's pod. But listen, on to more happy topics and a comfortable 2-0 win and a much better performance, because I don't know about you, but going into this game, me having my pessimistic head on as I usually do, I was actually really worried about the game because Kilmarnock have caused us a lot of problems over the last few years, but that's about as comfortable a 2-0 win as you're going to see.
Yeah, look, they never really looked like they were going to hurt us at any real point in that match. There was 1 or 2 times that Brophy found a tiny bit of space, but I felt that Helander and Goldson really never allowed him to really do anything. The 2 fullbacks spent a large part of the game higher up the pitch. The first half, I felt as though we were just lacking a little bit of something in that first half. It wasn't far away. You could see that the movement was good. We were getting into good areas. We maybe just weren't finding that killer ball. The best chance of the first half is probably Big Helander, the header. He'll probably be disappointed that he doesn't at least get it on target, if not score. But the first half, I didn't really feel as though we were under any real pressure. And in these kind of games, I think the biggest thing is just patience. Sort of sticking to what we try and do best, which is trying to open the game up, trying to get the ball into Kent. And I thought Brandon Barker had a really good game. I was obviously really critical of Brandon last week. I still don't think he's particularly a great player, but today his directness and his speed certainly hurt Kilmarnock. He had a couple of good shots for distance, but the second half obviously was a lot better, a lot more quality. We looked like we were going to hurt them maybe 4 or 5 times in that second half. I mean, 2-0 probably flattened Kilmarnock a wee bit. It could have easily been 3 or 4, possibly even 5 if they'd been really clinical on another day.
Aye, it was 2-0, get on 6-0. But, just to take it back to what you're saying about Brandon Barker there, and I've been really critical of Brandon. I've said he's not good enough. All the guys at this is Ibrox have said he's not good enough. But his performance today, I know that he had a really good performance midweek in a bounce game or something, and that's what got him in the team today. But see if he can just play like that, just float between the front three and front four, pick up the ball, nice passes. He's so quick with the ball. See if he could just continue to do that. There is possibly a place in the team for him. In the squad, I should say.
Yeah, look, what he offers is pace and directness. That is basically what his main part of his game is. The problem that I find is how often away from home are you going to find that space for him to run into? It's possible at Ibrox he might find that little bit more space on the pitch. But then the manager's also got the problem. He's obviously kind of confirmed that Hagi had picked up a slight knock, and that's why he didn't start. So whether that changes ahead of next week's game, because also with the manager, it sounds like obviously that sort of Joe Aribo's going to be back. So the manager's got a decision on that. If Hagi's back fit, he's got a decision on that. But see, at the end of the day, that's a good thing. You see, when there's guys playing well, and the guys that played today all played well, it makes it difficult for the manager to change it. Although I do think that Aribo comes back in, just basically because Joe was so good up until he picked up that wee niggle, and he's obviously missed a couple of games. So it's good for the manager. It's good that there's players that have come in after playing well in that bounce game. Yeah, again, the club obviously didn't really want that spoken about. I don't really understand why they maybe couldn't even just a wee semi-report to confirm who scored, who played in the game. There's obviously a lot of kind of nonsense during the week about some names that were trialists and stuff like that. But that's what happens when the club don't announce things. And that's what happens when sort of Plymouth put out a match report but don't name any of the Rangers players. So I don't really know why it was such a big deal to not just kind of put it out there, because I think it was reasonably well known that the club were playing that game. But the club just decided that they weren't going to speak about it at all, and that's basically it.
Jack Wilshere obviously didn't impress.
No, his 10-minute cameo after running down through the West Ham training also didn't work particularly well,
I know, well, listen, a special mention for the defence now.
Yeah.
Connor Goldson and Tav have come under no amount of scrutiny since they've come into the club. We've brought in Balogun at the start of the season. He's been fantastic. Barisic is on another level. Hollander as well, a massive mention for him. Not played a lot of football, and he's come in and strolled it. But that's the club now equalled the defensive record of 5 clean sheets in the league at the start of the season. So, going forward, we really don't have to worry about this defence, Willie. It's been fantastic, isn't it?
Look, and I think the core part of that defence is Goldson in particular. I'm a huge fan of Connors. I know some people give him grief or whatever. I don't really know why. I think maybe some people think that he maybe gives away the ball the odd time here and there, and that's fair enough. Everybody's allowed their opinion, but for me, I can totally understand why the manager plays Goldson basically every single game. He's a leader. He pretty much dominates in most games, and whenever it's him and Helander, or it's him and Balogun, or it's him and Edmondson, you still feel pretty confident when Connor's in there. And recently, defensively, yeah, again, I know Tav gets a lot of criticism just because it's Tav, basically. I thought he was good today again. He never really gave up any real defensive problems. He sets up the second goal. Borna yet again. That pick out for Roof is brilliant. It's very much like, I think that's 6, 7, 8 times he did that exact pass where he gets it. He just cuts the ball back into the penalty spot almost. And Roof does well. Roof manages to pick it out well enough and put it in the back of it, which is great for Kamara as well. Him getting that first goal, that's a big boost for him. And I'm pleased for him because his work rate today was good. He's got really good quick feet. He's still a wee bit off, you can see that. And I think he would admit it himself, but see possibly in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time, I think we're going to see a very, very good player for Rangers, depending on where he plays. If he's going to play as a 10, or if he's going to maybe play wide as a 7 or an 11. It looks like Big Itten is basically at his best as a 9.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably trying to fit Roof around that and how we use him best to get goals and assists and hot teams.
Well, listen, anybody watching on YouTube at the moment, get your thoughts in the comments and we'll most certainly read them out. But just touching on that, well, the manager came out after the game and spoke about it and said, look, he's not a wide player. He's definitely not a wide player. He's definitely a number 9. But that front four is just so interchangeable. And I think, like you say, the first goal with Barisic cutting it back into the box and Roof's finish, or should I say Roth? I'm not 100% sure. But the front four is just that interchangeable that Itten can go out wide and then come in and Roof as well. So I don't think it's a case where Roof you have to play him as a number 9 right up front because that front four is just so interchangeable.
Yeah, look, I think that's basically what the manager's looking for. You know, when you look at Hadji can come in and play pretty much any of the 3 positions in behind the striker. Roof can basically play those positions as well as a number 9. Itten could be one of those guys that, see if you play against a team that's got a small fullback and you want to get that ball into the box for Barisic or Tavernier, and what you're going to use his height and physical presence against a small fullback. I mean, that could be fantastic for us. So basically, I mean, that front four, whoever it is, whether it's Hadji, whether it was obviously Morelos, Itten, Roof, Barker, Kent, Stewart, whoever it may be, it's important that these guys are able to move around because it stops it being so basic at times. And I think that was your problem last week. We probably didn't kind of interchange enough, and it was a bit too easy to play against at times. Whereas today, I felt the movement was better. You know, Ryan, yet again, I thought he was excellent. You know, I thought he was our man of the match today. I thought Ryan just, his quality on the ball, the way he's able to drive at players, his composure for the second goal was great. When you actually see it on the replay, it basically looks like it's like the Kilmarnock goalkeeper and 3 defenders, and there's no space for him to pick it out. But then he just takes a bit of time and just wraps his foot around it into the back of the net. It was a really good finish.
And but you have to say for that goal as well, though, although Tav has a shot that's blocked, it's fantastic composure for Tav to find Kent as well. And like you say, a brilliant finish by Kent, who in my opinion today was man of the match.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those games. I mean, I could understand why people thought Brandon Barker was man of the match.
No, I can see the argument.
But for me, I just thought Ryan was excellent. I thought Borna had a really good game down that left-hand side. I mean, you know, the amount of times that he puts in dangerous balls into that box, his crossing ability is fantastic. And you know, once Big Itten's fully up to speed, the big man should be loving those balls coming in for Barisic and Tavernier. You know, he should be dominating. We should be scoring more goals with the ball into the box with his head. You know, the cutbacks for Roof, Kent. I mean, to me, Kent just looks like the player that the manager wanted. You know, that's basically why the manager paid the £6 or £7 million to bring him in. With the start of this season, his 3 goals so far, his ability to get at teams, to hurt teams. This is the Ryan Kent that the manager knew he could be. And for Leeds to come in and offer the money they did, I mean, that obviously can make a point of putting it out on Twitter. You know, if you can afford to pay £25-30 million for like a 22, 23-year-old centre back that's been out and won 3 times in England, but you're going to offer us £10 million for Ryan Kent, it'll be funny. You know, like come back with like a bid that's actually acceptable, or at least would give Rangers thought to look at it. To me, like the bare minimum for Ryan is at least double what we paid for him, which is round about 14-15 million. But then Rangers would be looking for add-ons and everything else to go with it. So like, to start off with whatever it was, 8.5, 9, 10 million, that's just, it's nowhere near how important Ryan is to your team. And if I'm totally honest, I wouldn't want to lose Ryan this season.
No.
To me, it looks like he's got that drive. And if anybody's going to win us games at times, possibly in his own, it's going to be him. And you can see the fear when he plays against Celtic. I mean, like, they'll never admit it, but every time like Ryan's played against Celtic, he looks like the one guy that can really hurt them.
He's dominated them every time.
And I think, you know, to lose him, it's really difficult to find a replacement, especially somebody that's just going to come in and settle in so quickly. You know, we've seen that with like sort of Roof and Itten. I mean, these guys are basically still settling into how we want to play. And hopefully by the time we play Hamilton and then we have the international break, hopefully that will help. Especially Roof, it should help him, because I don't believe he'll be in international duty. So So it will allow him time to get in, get more training, get more minutes. It might mean that Itten's away for like the 1 or 2 games, which is fine because yet again, if he gets minutes on those games, then that's important for us as well.
Well, the thing is, our very own Wally Boyd's put in the comments as well that he thought Davis has been poor in the past, but he actually looked pretty good today. And I've got to say that partnership with Davis and Jack, it really did click. And we looked far more offensive, I think, with Davis and Jack in the centre of the park as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the thing with Stephen is I think we know that he's not able to play 3 games a week.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephen's going to probably be the guy that drops out every so often. But you see, Stephen is more of an attacking central midfield player in that he's always looking for that forward pass. He's always looking to find that ball maybe one step quicker into somebody like Hadji, into somebody like Kent. And that means the game can be at a quicker pace. But the big thing for the manager is it's trying to protect Stephen because he's aged and things like that. So they're trying to use him. And I thought today was very good. I thought like sort of Ryan was basically allowed to do his job and it made Stephen's job that much easier because he's able to get that extra ball into feet, to move the ball that bit quicker. And that's why Stephen's still a good player for us. I know a lot of guys are saying his legs are gone and things like that, but see when you've got Stephen's ability, you don't need to have the legs to move the ball quickly. You know, you just need to be smarter than a lot of the players on the pitch. Stephen is that.
Just going back to Kent really quickly, you were saying how obviously how impressed you've been with him. How big a season is this for Ryan Kent? And is this a kind of a season where he's really got to push on and show the money that we've paid for him? Because he started the season like that. I think he's been our best player since we've came back. And now he's got Aribo and Hadji in that midfield with him as well. But is this really a season where he needs to push on?
Yeah, I mean, last season was almost like a lost season for Ryan because we had to wait that long to actually get him. You know, Liverpool obviously haggled down to the last pound and sell-on fee, and that's their prerogative. He was their player, but to pretty much bring him in the last day of the window meant he'd missed like the whole of our pre-season,
Mm-hmm.
and that made it really tough. Whereas this year, because of what's happened with the coronavirus, it's allowed Ryan to go away and get in fantastic physical shape. But he also looks like he's come back so focused. You know, like even the first game of the season against Aberdeen, I never felt he was going to miss that chance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's just wrapped the ball past the goalkeeper. Then he's obviously bagged another couple of goals since then. But it's not just the goals, it's his work. It's his quality on the pitch. It's his ability to take the ball and drive at players, to open the game up, to be creative. And he just, to me, if we're going to win something this season, it's going to be in the back of guys like Kent and Aribo, because those 2 guys are going to be influential in how we hurt teams this year. Of course, you know, like our strikers are going to have to get goals as well. But I think, as I said on one of the pods a couple of weeks ago, it's important that we get more goals from Aribo, from Kent, from Hadji, and even to an extent, guys like Greg Stewart if they need to come in, Brandon Barker if they need to come in. It's important these guys get goals. And if Ryan just keeps playing at the level he is at the moment, we'll find it really difficult to hold on to him. But that's a good thing, because if he's playing at that level, then we're hurting teams and we're winning games of football.
Absolutely. And he looks far more clinical this season as well, which is that's something
that's one of the biggest criticisms, Brian. I mean, a lot of people are very stats based. If you look at social media, there's guys that basically use stats for everything, but stats don't tell you everything about every single game, about how players will be influential within a match. Yeah, I mean, Ryan's obviously added goals this season for last season, but it's just his all-round play that's improved. And for me, that's the most important thing. And once like sort of Giannis gets up to pace and hits a bit of form, that front 3 or 4 could be devastating.
Well, I don't know, Willie. I don't know, Willie, if you've ever seen Moneyball. Sometimes stats do matter.
I've actually watched the film, and I think it is great. You know, I look at like what like sort of Brentford have done it really well.
Mm-hmm.
Then people will point towards Brentford and say, well, they're still in the Championship. You know, they've been beat by a Fulham team that went out and spent more money than them or whatever. Because at the end of the day, you know, like Fulham have got the money to go out and buy that extra quality, and that's how it is. So I mean, like stats can work. Don't get me wrong, but I still think coaches and scouts still look for ability first and foremost, and that's what Ryan's got. He's got that exceptional ability to hurt teams. But obviously, we want more goals, we want more assists because we're very demanding. As a support, we're demanding. Let's be honest, even after today's game, if you go onto social media, you'll still have people complaining that, you know, we only won 2-0. You know, it should have been 3, should have been 4. We should have hurt teams more. We should have upped the tempo more. But I still think it's difficult to play behind closed doors with no support. I still think it must be slightly strange for the players, but possibly at the moment it's actually helping the players because see after 50 minutes of that game, if it was still 0-0, the support would have been starting to get a bit anxious and the usual groans and moans would have been coming from the stands. So potentially today that's been a good thing. And plus, what's that? Over 3 home games, we've scored 8 goals and we've not conceded any.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty good going for our first 3 home games of the season. I'm quite content with that.
Right, well, just before we finish, obviously this was a really important game, I think, anyway, for us to go, not just win, but put on a performance. So just in your opinion, just before we finish, how important was it today that, we got that win, but we looked so much better than what we did against Livingston?
Yeah, well, I think it was just purely the intensity was that little bit better today than it was against Livingston. And basically the biggest thing was that we found the breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that first goal in every game against teams that come and play the way that Kilmarnock do, that Livingston did, that St Johnstone did, St Mirren, that first goal just makes it so much easier. It takes the pressure off the players. It allows us to play with a wee bit more freedom. Unfortunately, it doesn't make the opposition really come out anymore. Always felt in the past maybe the opposition might take a couple of steps higher and try and, but it basically isn't happening. Basically, the teams are doing exactly what they start the game and how they finish the game. You know, like Kelly didn't even really change anything when they made their subs. They didn't go any more attacking. They didn't really look to be any more threatening. But if that's how teams want to come and play and they're happy to go back down the road with a 2-0 defeat, having had like one shot and target or something like that in 90 minutes, that's fine. But it's frustrating for all the odds watching these games where teams come and literally make no effort to try and hurt you at all. But that's what we have to put up with. It's what the manager needs to keep working on. It's what the players need to keep working on. And we just need to find ways of getting through these low blocks or 2 banks of 4 or whatever they want to say these days.
Absolutely. But listen, we won 2-0. I actually felt in the first half, I felt it was a far better performance and I felt a lot more comfortable because there's been that many times, and I don't know if you've felt this, that at half time it's been 0-0 and we've kind of huffed and puffed with a few balls into the box. But I actually felt in that first half, we made enough chances to score. I mean, Hollander should have scored with a header. You know, Kent had a chance. I actually felt getting into the second half a lot more calm than what I would have done normally if it was 0-0 at half time.
Yeah, I do agree. I certainly didn't feel concerned at half time. I felt we were basically the only team that were actually trying to do anything. In the second half, we just found that extra intensity. And obviously, we Roof hit the bar. And then a couple of minutes later, we obviously get the goal. And from, I think, like the last 25, 30 minutes, it was just us on the front foot. Eventually, we got the second goal, which we actually deserved. But, you know, like Greg Stewart could have got his goal, you know, as like sort of Roof's head. And if that had been in the net, I mean, would 4-0 have been a bad scoreline? No, it wouldn't have been. And it would have probably been a fair scoreline. If somebody, as I said earlier, see if people look at stats and look at the shots that we had on target and off target, 4-0 would have probably been a bit right.
Well, I agree. It could have been 5 or 6 and nobody could have batted an eyelid. But listen, we're going to award this as Ibrox man of the match, Willie. And obviously I said I think Kent's my man of the match, but I'll let you decide. Are you going to give it to Barker?
I personally thought that Ryan was the best player. I thought Ryan was our man of the match. But yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I was obviously critical of Brandon last week, but fair play to him this week. I thought he was very good. He was the one that probably pushed Ryan most for man of the match. So, you know, if Brandon can play like that week in, week out, then there'll be less supporters complaining about his performances, that's for sure.
I know, poor Brandon. He can't catch a break, can he?
Not really.
But listen, Willie, thanks very much for joining me. Thanks to everybody for watching. It's a wee bit of a shorter one today because we won. But thanks very much for watching. And you'll catch our pod midweek, comes out on Thursday at 9 p.m, I should say. When you'll be me, Tommy, Scott and Willie. So join us then. Thanks for watching and we'll speak to you soon.